This brings us to writing a better introduction. I always leave the introduction to last. I always recommend my students do the same. When you've written your essay and your conclusion, go back and improve your introduction. So even if you've written something of an introduction, I guarantee you can improve it once you've written the rest of your essay, because the introduction has to introduce everything that you wrote. So, check that the first sentence of your introduction gives a broad idea of the subject and the faculty that the paper comes from. Do it without mentioning any specific details. Include at least one short quote and one long quote. You should have quotes in your introduction. They're a beautiful way to add to the word count. They're a beautiful way to give your essay emotional impact. They're a beautiful way to introduce the topic with a bang. Next, check that the last sentence of the introduction flows into the essay by making the reader want to read on. Keep that in mind. If I was a reader and I was reading this final sentence of the introduction, would I be keen to move on to the next paragraph, or would I want to put the essay down? Next, check that every single area that you cover in the body of the essay is listed in order in the introduction. Do this subtly. Do this by writing vague sentences about each one. Give names and basics, but don't give details. You want to make the reader want to know details, so you don't go into too much detail in the introduction. Also, because you're going to need that, word count later on, so don't use it all up in your intro. But you do need to introduce them, maybe just the name of them, like you could say the Civil War, but then when you get down to your paragraphs in the body of the essay, you talk about the exact dates, who was involved in the war, blah, 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 blah. But in the intro, you must introduce it if you're going to talk about it later. So that is the checklist for a better introduction. It's not too complicated, but each one of those things you really do need to pay attention to. And you can download the checklist as one of the additional resources to this lecture.